So we want to encourage cervical rotation to both sides. So we're going to find something that he's visually or audibly stimulated by at home, like a black and white image, a rattle. If you don't have anything that you love, a smart noggin stick on Amazon.
Okay.
They're like $20, which is rather expensive for a baby toy, but they're like magic. It's a stick with a mirror in the end and a top that glows and changes color. It's high contrast colors and it rattles. So it's kind of a combination of a bunch of good stuff that babies this age tend to like. You can use it to stimulate him to turn his head towards each side. So you want to get him to turn his arm all the way to the left and hold it for 30 seconds. His maximum cervical rotation as far as he can go towards each side. And then we're going to go back to neutral with the item and then over to the opposite side, hold for 30 seconds, back to neutral with the item. And then we're actually going to lift the item up so that he has to lift his chin up to look up for the item. We're going to do that on his back. We're also going to do that same game on his belly. And then whenever we're doing tummy time, we're going to roll him into the position and roll him out rather than just placing him on his belly. So we're rolling him into tummy time. I'm going to raise the arm on the side that we're rolling towards. And we're rolling in. So he's here. We're going to encourage him to turn his head towards each side. A good way to do that is to let him suck on your finger. So I'm going to place my finger whenever I'm getting him to suck on my finger and with the intention of body work. I'm going to place the finger pad on his hard palate at the alveolar ridge behind where his two front teeth would be. This spot on his hard palate kind of feels bumpy. The rest of the hard palate feels smooth. And really that's where you're going to elicit that suck reflex, that primitive reflex for him to start suckling on your finger. And so as he's sucking on my finger, this would keep him in this position happier for longer. But you can also easily manipulate his head position too. So you're not like fighting him or forcing him to go to the other side. It happens more organically like this. So whenever we're encouraging side to side movement, I'm gonna use the palm of my hand under the opposite cheek, get him to suck on my finger, encourage him to move, change hands, get him to suck on my opposite finger, and then rest opposite cheek on the other side of the table or floor, whatever you're using. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna play tug of war too. And this is part of suck training. So he's sucking on my finger. I'm gonna try to pull my finger out of his mouth just ever so slightly. And what I want him to do is cup the sides of his tongue and try to pull my finger back in. And we can play this game passively throughout the day. I'd rather him suck on your finger and the bulbous pacifier than the ma'am. And for as long as he's willing to tolerate playing this game, it's a really easy one to get in. So I'm just pulling it slightly. He's pulling back in. If you were ever to get really frustrated with this, I'd stop immediately. Again, because we don't want to create a negative association with this. All right. Another way of doing tummy down time is what I refer to as Superman pose. Superman pose is his butt up against my belly, my hands on his chest. I'm gonna put my hands here because he's so small right now on his jaw. And all I'm doing is lifting that chin up off his chest so he's not collapsing his airway so he can breathe really well. And I'm gonna walk him around my house. I'm gonna talk to him, label things. This counts as tummy down time or belly time, just like this. You can also practice cervical rotation in this position. So I have him here in Superman. I'm gonna take a step back. He's gonna look over his shoulder and forward. I'm gonna take a step back. He's gonna look over his opposite shoulder and forward. Okay? And we're gonna go back and forth. Cool, right? We're gonna get in front of a mirror. I'm gonna prop him up here. Pretend I'm in front of your bathroom mirror. A toy with a suction cup tends to work really well for this, or something that you can place above the mirror that lights up. His vision's not great, as you know right now, so try to get as close to the mirror as you can. And we're gonna garner his attention and turn our body to the side, so he has to look over that shoulder to look at himself. And then we're gonna go to the opposite side. Okay. All right. we're gonna go what I call around the town, inside of his mouth. Clean fingers or gloved hands, always inside of his mouth. I'm gonna separate his lip tissue, his cheek tissue from his gum tissue. I'm gonna start in the corner of his mouth and just pull that tissue away a little bit and run my finger around the circumference of his mouth. When you feel some fascial restriction or tightness, you can hold your finger there for a couple of seconds before moving on to a different area. I'd go around 10 times twice a day. We're gonna do a neck stretch. So, finger, let him suck. Opposite hand, cup like a C, ear to shoulder. I'm gonna drop that shoulder down with these fingers pushing down towards his toes. Hold here, hold for 10-15 seconds. Stretching the muscle right here, part of the scalene, some of the SCM. We're always gonna do everything bilaterally and equal on both sides, even though he's tight around the right, because we don't wanna create more of a muscular imbalance that already exists. And stretching a side that is moving well isn't gonna cause any harm. So here, I also will do it like this, but just to keep for consistency purposes. That C, just like that, okay? All right, he's sucking on my finger. We're gonna drop the chin, okay? And I want you to, this is kind of like a measure of functionality, and we want to kind of check in and see how he's doing to kind of use this as a measure of progress. So again, my finger pads at the alveolar ridge. He's sucking on my finger. I'm gonna drop his chin. What a kiddo should be able to do is maintain suction of their tongue against my finger and still move it like a wave without losing contact of their tongue up against my finger. When I drop his jaw, he almost immediately, as of right now, loses suction, loses contact, and then very quickly stops moving his tongue in a wave. So we're going to use this as a measure of progress. And it's not going to be like a miraculous 180. But as you see right now, he loses suction immediately. So our goal is going to be that he can maintain suction of his tongue on my finger with that challenge for 3 seconds. Okay. And I'm going to show you one more thing to do for jaw. So since he's overcompensating and using his jaw a little bit more than he should, his jaw muscles are getting a little tight and tense, just as just his suck pattern. So 2 fingers right above the ear. Small circles. I use as much pressure as I would on a tomato in the grocery store. Small circles down to the bottom jawline. I'm sandwiching this bottom jawline between my fingers, going along the ridge of the jaw, right to the middle of the chin. And then back up. I'm going to do that 5 times on both sides, twice a day. Hi.